Hello, I'm one of the people who will be talking today. I'm the podcast host, and my name is Keith. The poem we'll be talking about is called Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove, at recess, in the ring. We passed the fields of grazing grain, we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We passed before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were towards eternity. Currently in the world, there are several wars occurring and a pandemic that ended not long ago, but is still doing damage. In the world, there is a lot of death, something that we all need to contend with the existence of. Dickinson's poem talks about life, death, and what comes after. The poem is a hopeful representation of how to view death, as a gentleman taking you in the carriage to eternity without war or disease. I personally love how Dickinson uses grammar in her poetry to convey new meanings. Dickinson is well known for her use of hyphens and enjambment. Enjambment is the technique in poetry where one line flows to the next. Dickinson uses enjambment and hyphens to convey a break in thoughts, interrupting the progression of each line. The normal line, with no hyphens, would be read as, Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves in immortality. But with her use of hyphens, the intended way to read the stanza, it sounds like this. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. These thought interruptions force the reader into considering every possible meaning of the words and conveying why certain things are afterthoughts. Her use conveys how easy the meaning can change, how one hyphen can make the reader second guess everything they thought about the poem originally. Brings up all sorts of questions for the readers.
Hello, I am the other host, Park, and I will be offering my own views on the poem. I personally enjoyed this section of the poem. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Where others, both in literature and life, fear death, Dickinson seemed to approach it with open arms, even referring to her tomb as her home. This unique view, while in some ways shocking or confusing, reveals so much about the author's personal outlook on life. This description of the tomb does not invoke fear. It does not seem dangerous. It instead seems very neutral, showing Dickinson's peace and resolution with her fate. These lines are an embodiment of the poem's underlying theme that death is only another stage of existence, and perfectly fulfill that purpose. Even before her own death, Emily Dickinson's unique view of death can be seen in her treatment of her father's funeral. Despite enjoying a relatively healthy and positive relationship with her father, Emily Dickinson did not intend to attend his funeral directly, only viewing it discreetly from a crack in a room door. While this can be interpreted as a result of Dickinson's introversion, I saw it as a result of her non-negative view of death shown in the poem. Despite poor health seemingly preventing her from writing for a while, Dickinson suddenly started writing many letters to her friends and family, indicating that she may have come to terms with her death and adopted the philosophy she describes in her poem. Notably, while Dickinson had a rather confusing relationship with her Christian faith that involved skepticism and certain elements of religion, she seemed to truly believe in God and the afterlife, which could have potentially influenced her views on death. could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children strove, at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain, we passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us, the dews drew quivering and chill. For only gossamer my gown, my tippet only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed the swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis centuries, and yet you'll shorter than the day. I first surmised a horse's heads were toward eternity. Credits. We found the poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death on Poetry Foundation. The poem was originally published in the posthumous collection Poemed by Emily Dickinson in 1890. The song we used, Slow Motion, by Benjamin Tissot, was found on Ben Sound for free. In our research at Emily Dickinson, we used information from Academy of American Poets and Encyclopedia Britannica. Thank you for listening to our podcast.